G'day guys, Matt Brand here. Let me ask you a question. Let's say you go out, you want to go out, you want to buy yourself a Mini, but you don't want a Mini, you know, you don't want a small car, but you want a Mini, you know, but you don't want a Mini, but you want a Mini. What do you do? What does one do in that situation? Well, that's a great question, and that's what I'm here to answer. You go out and you buy yourself one of these. It's a MINI Countryman. But this isn't just any MINI Countryman. This is the MINI Countryman JCW, John Cooper Works, which means that yes, under the bonnet is a fire-breathing 4-cylinder. It's got a lot of power, as we'll get into. And you get an all-wheel drive car that's essentially a family hauler. Today we're gonna be doing a full in-depth review of the new MINI Countryman. I'm gonna show you the exterior, the interior. I'm gonna launch this thing from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour to see if it's really as quick as the manufacturers claim. And of course, we're gonna give it some sauce around Saucy Corner, because that's what we do here at Matt Brand Cars. And you know what you do? You subscribe. So go down there, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, you know what to do. All right, let's get into the review, baby. Don't know what I say sometimes. Okay, let's start with the front of the MINI Countryman with what's new. So first of all, you get a revised bumper up front, and the LED headlights have been updated. They are LED now, standard across the range, and this one here is matrix LED, so it blanks out part of its beams for oncoming traffic, because this is the top spec Mini yours. There are some things that I especially love about the front of the MINI Countryman. I love the blacked out badging. You have, look, the John Cooper Works badge up front. You get this nice chili red stripe here, and they extend across the rest of the car. I don't know how I feel about the amount of chili red. It's a bit too spicy for my liking. Get it? I really need to reconsider my life choices. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good looking car from the front, especially for an SUV. And like any good V8 monster, you get a bonnet hood thing, except this is not a V8. This is a 4-cylinder. It's all right. BMW is, Mini are still learning. For those who don't know, it's made by BMW. All right, let's check out the side. On the whole, the MINI Countryman doesn't actually look that big, right? But once you actually see it from the side, that's when you start to notice that, maybe this is an SUV. Not a bad thing, because for an SUV, it is still quite small on the outside, but on the inside, as you'll see, it's pretty massive. So what do you get out here? Well, you get these 19-inch alloy wheels. They are wrapped in Eagle F1 rubber, which is really good. And look, you get massive brakes up front, John Cooper Works branded, though I think they're Brembos. Could be wrong. But of course you get the quintessential black plastic cladding and more chili red. Chili red here, 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 and on the roof. Look how massive that chili red paint is on the roof. I don't like it. I would get it in black. But yeah, look, you get keyless entry and go, although the keys are inside. We can cut that out. Oh, look, you get SUV rails up top. On this top spec Mini yours, you also get a double panoramic sunroof up top, and we'll come over here. And yeah, I really don't know what else to say about this. There's not that much going on. It's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the back. And then there is the rear, and biggest change you're gonna notice are the Union Jack tail lights. These are like a more 3D effect than you'll find on other Minis, and I love them. They look especially cool at night. You've got your classic little roof spoiler here for maximum aerodynamics, and then you get more blacked out badging. Look, Mini's blacked out. The Countryman badge is blacked out, though it is a really cool look, bold and spaced out. Then of course you get fake diffuser down here, but this is my favorite part. These exhausts, they sound amazing. Take a listen. Oh, and how could I forget the John Cooper Works badge back there? Yay. What about boot space? I've had to overexpose myself so you can see inside of here, but look, you press that, it is an automatic tailgate. It opens up nice and automatically, and you get a decent amount of storage in here. It's not class leading, but it's still pretty good. Look, you get a little false floor, and you get even more storage under there. That's actually really good. You got a little storage area here. You get your load cover there. It's like a cardboard. I've never felt that before. And of course, you can get more space if you come around here and you do that, and you find a button of some sort. Ah, here it is. It's a pulley. Kablamo, it comes down like that. You could do the same for the other side. Oh, and we we have one left up. Oh, you get the picture. That goes down somehow, and yeah, something. So actually, storage space within here is surprisingly good. It's much better than in a standard Mini, which is why you'd go for something like this over something like that. Have you ever thought to yourself, what does the interior of an $83,000 car look like? Well, let's go check that out. Okay, let's talk about the interior now, because all jokes aside, this is a really nice place to be. A couple of weeks ago now, I was in the MINI JCW 3-door, which is only a few $1,000s less than this, but this comes with so much more in terms of its engine and drivetrain, and then interior space, which is probably more important. That's definitely more of like a bachelor's car. This is definitely more of a, well, a practical car. The first thing that's always struck me with the interior of Minis and BMW really is just the quality. It's all really solid in here. You got some, you know, strange, interesting patterns on here, but they're not bad. And even the harder plastics like here, they're still soft. I love this too. You get Alcantara here on the doors. It's a really cool touch. I love Alcantara. Then you've got the classic Mini design touches like these toggle switches here. They just feel so nice to click. They're also up here as well, where you can also control your sunroof. Well, we'll put that back down because it's freezing today. The other thing I love about Mini interiors, and this is the same of course, is that you get these like interactive interior LED lights. So when you change the temperature control, it shows up here. When you change into different sport modes, it changes the interior lighting, or you can use this toggle up here to get the same effect. It's just really cool. Speaking of air conditioning controls, they're really easy to use. They work. I like them too. This steering wheel, it's a really nice steering wheel. It's out of the BMW parts bin, but that's not a bad thing because it's honestly one of my favorites. It's super thick and chunky, Napa leather, so it's nice to hold on to. Got the John Cooper Works badge down the bottom, and it's just really functional. And you can also control your adaptive cruise control, which was new for the facelift, so that's cool. The one thing I'm not so sure about is the digital instrument cluster. The more I use it, the less I like it. It's just really basic, and competitors, especially at this price point, like the Audi Q3, they just do it way better. It's functional enough, but the only real thing you can adjust on it is a tiny sliver of display right down the bottom. But its cool party trick is that because it's mounted on the steering wheel column, when you move the steering wheel up and down, it moves with it. So that's pretty cool. Kind of same with the heads-up display. It was the same issue that I had in the Mini 3-door, in that I can't really see it at a lot of positions because the steering wheel will just block it. Maybe next time BMW just project it onto the windscreen like you do in your other cars. I think it's a better solution. One thing that's stolen straight from BMW, and I'm not mad about it, is the infotainment display. Now, it's small. 8.8 inches in today's day is actually quite small. You know, Hyundais are coming with 10.25 inch displays as standard, and they're really good. This is still very good. It's high definition, really easy to use. I prefer using the iDrive controller down here, though again, it's just like small things. It's just a bit too far back, so I'm finding I'm having to have my arm like that, which is not comfortable. But it's still a very good system, easy to use, super high definition, and very responsive too. It's pretty functional. You get navigation, digital radio, wireless Apple CarPlay, but no Android Auto. But otherwise, it's decent. Speaking of wireless, you get a wireless charger here, and I've got a ginormous iPhone 13 Pro Max thing, and that doesn't fit. But of all the Mini wireless chargers I've tried, this is the widest. So if you don't have a huge chonker of a phone, you'll probably be able to use it, unlike in the Mini 3-door. Although you do get a USB-A port up front, a 12-volt socket, and under here you get a little USB-C port. So plenty of ways to charge your devices if they're too fat to fit in there. The cool thing about this armrest is that it ratchets, and you've got a storage area under there. You've got a storage area up front and a couple of cup holders here. Oh, I should mention you get pretty massive door bins, and glove box, it's a pretty decent size. What else? Oh, the seats. How could I forget the seats? These are the Mini Yaw seats. And unlike, again, the Mini 3-door, they're electric. It's amazing. For 83 grand, who could have expected electric adjusting seats? But they are really, really good. Super, super comfy. And they're quite well bolstered too. They're heated too. That's lovely. Look, you get little touches like the Union Jack on the side, and of course the headrest is a massive Union Jack. The Germans really don't want you to forget that you're in a British car. Nah, it's cool design touches. Oh, and you get a Harman Kardon sound system. Sounds really good. I'm trying to think about what I really don't like in here. And honestly, it's just nitpicking. It's a really nice place to be. But even better, I think, is the back seats because it's super usable. Let's go check that out. Okay, so the rear. So I'm 5'11". I have so much toe room, so much leg room, and so much headroom. It is super spacious back here, surprisingly so, because the outside really isn't that big. The inside, because this is a giant, well, square, you do have so much room. Get little pockets back here, you get your little air vents, no third zone climate control, but It's good enough. You get 2 USB-C fast charge ports there. The back seats get their own sunroof. Again, it's just a really nice touch. These seats, these Mini Yours leather seats back here, they're just as nice as up front. I really like them. You don't get an armrest, which is a bit of a shame, although you can just, oh my God, you can just do that and have a pseudo armrest, but that's effort. Oh, and a couple of party tricks. Look, you can slide these seats back and forth like a real SUV. Or if you find the pull tab thing, you can recline. So yeah, it's pretty good. And really, this is the biggest reason why you would buy this over a standard Mini, because the Mini is really mini, and this Mini is a proper SUV. You have actual loads of room back here, no compromises up front. You don't have to slide the seat forward to fit back here. This is a true family car, yet it's still small and nimble enough to be a city car. So I really appreciate that. Let's talk about some specs. Before we talk about specs, check this out. I love the way that this opens up and it leaves the headlights there. I don't know why, it's just really cool. So the whole range starts with the Cooper that starts at just over 50,000 Australian dollars, and that will get you a 100 kilowatt 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine. Doesn't sound like a lot, I mean it's not, but it's a pretty sprightly engine. I actually really like it. However, what you really want is this just behemoth of a hot SUV, because that will get you the BMW B48 4-cylinder. It is a turbocharged unit, of course, and it pumps out 225 kilowatt of power, 450 Newton meters of torque. And as you'll find out on the drive, yeah, this thing is quick. The whole range starts with the Pure, and that's 70,000 Australian dollars. And this JCW Mini Yours, that will set you back around 83,000 Australian dollars. Whew, that is a lot of money. But it does compete with cars like the BMW X2 M35i, which I reviewed, and you can click up somewhere there to watch that. And as you'll see, this isn't any ordinary car. This is a true performance car. And what better way to show you that than by doing some launch control. Okay, so Mini claim that this Countryman JCW do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 5.1 seconds. But let's see what it will actually do. So we'll put the transmission into S, put the car into sport mode. We'll turn off the traction 1, so it puts on dynamic traction control, and then all we need to do is brake and floor the accelerator. So let's do that. Oh man. Oh, this thing is so fast. So 0 to 100 in 5.4 seconds. That's not the best, but to be fair, as I said, it's a wet day. Still, the all-wheel drive system here did a really good job at hooking up, and we'll come back to driving in a moment, I promise. But yeah, this thing is pretty quick for a family SUV. All right, I think it's about time we take this thing on the road. Okay, so here we are on the roads, and of course it's horrific weather, but that's not actually a bad thing, because well, this is an all-wheel drive, and so what better way to test out the grip of an all-wheel drive SUV than by flooring it in the rain. So yes, this has Mini's all-4 system, as they brand it, which really just means it's a front-wheel drive biased all-wheel drive system. So it will send power to the rear wheels when it thinks it needs to, but most of the time it's just front-wheel drive. So before we get to the twisties, let's talk about how it performs on the highway, and frankly, really well. I was really expecting a car with extremely stiff suspension, but you don't get that. Right now I'm in mid mode, which is like their way of saying normal, and so the adaptive dampers are at their slackest. And so at these high speeds, I'm super impressed because it's not crashy, it's not like jumping you around, it's really reasonable. We can also put the car into green. Ooh, that's like eco mode, and it kind of just dulls everything down. But what we really want is sport mode. You can hear that the exhaust opens up, the steering becomes quite heavy, and it's really good because it's only 1.5 turns lock to lock, so it feels a lot more nimble than it probably should. And of course, our throttle response becomes much better, and that becomes equally better when we put the transmission into sport mode. So let's do that. One thing I've noticed with a lot of Minis is that you do get quite a bit of road noise and wind noise, and I presume that comes down to the fact that they're essentially rolling squares. It also doesn't help that these are on run flat tires, and so they just create quite a bit more noise. When you add it with the 19-inch alloy wheels, you know, it's not the greatest recipe for comfort and quietness, but it does pretty well. Alrighty, let's give this thing some sauce. Oh yeah, so power is sent through an 8-speed torque converter transmission, and it's a really good transmission. Upshifts are really smooth and seamless, as are downshifts, but we're in the twisties, so we've got to give this thing some twisty sauce. And what I won't be doing is turning off the traction control on a day like this. I think you can all understand. This is one of the things I actually like more about this car than the 3-door Mini, is that this is an all-wheel drive, and that means that it does have so much more grip than a front-wheel drive car. In this kind of weather, a front-wheel drive or even a rear-wheel drive car, they become useless. I'm actually gonna do a little test here. So as I said, this is front-wheel drive bias. It's really wet outside right now. Let's see how long it takes for it to send power to the rear. Okay, so let's do it. That was pretty instantaneous. As I said, the weather conditions right now are horrific, so for it to be able to hook up like that, I'm really impressed. This is the ultimate test though, ladies and gents. Saucy corner, let's give it some sauce. Took a while to move there. Oh, there we go. Okay, so a bit of understeer, but it hooks up really well. It's not scrambling for traction. It's doing a really good job. That exhaust sound is so good too. Now, some of that is pumped in, of course, but it's not too obtrusive. And the exhaust genuinely does have a few crackles and pop to it. Some things that this actually has over a standard Countryman is it's got a stiffer body. You've got bracing up in the engine bay and they've just used a bit more adhesives. And you can tell because when you chuck this thing around a corner, as I said, even on a wet day like today, still does very well. Okay, so we're in a bit of a residential area here. Let's put the transmission into normal and the car into mid or normal. And it really does just become an entirely different beast. This is where it really feels like any car on the road. Sometimes you really do forget that this car has as much power as it does, until of course you put your foot down and it pulls hard. The other thing that really impressed me was braking, because the brakes on these things are tremendous. For example, if I do a full emergency stop, God, yeah, it's really, really good. It just stops really quickly. The brakes up front especially are absolutely enormous. So it's really got the whole package. It's got everything. I'm kind of shocked. I didn't expect much from this, I'll be honest with you, but it surprised me. This thing is surprisingly good. I've got to give it sauce one more time. Oh, yes. So what's my final verdict on the Mini Countryman JCW, all for something? In all seriousness, I think that this thing is really cool. Even though it's an SUV, I would probably buy it over the 3-door because the 3-door comes with way less power. It's front-wheel drive. This is all-wheel drive. It is a true sports car in every sense of the word. This thing is fully kitted out, and yes, it's feeling a little bit old in the tooth maybe in some areas, but Mini have done a really good job at keeping everything updated. I wouldn't go for the Mini yours. You don't need to spend 83 grand on this car. I think the Pure at 70 grand is a much better buy, and you get essentially all you would ever really need anyway. But I'm curious, what do you guys think of the Mini Countryman JCW, all for, I don't even know. Would you buy one? Let me know in the comment section below, just below that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'd love to have you around. And as always, I'll see you next week.